We are live. We are live. Welcome to emergency live show of college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football, even though it seems to be always Pac-12. But we love everything in college football. And there will be a day where we get to some other stuff like the spring football games, the practices, our predictions, talking about who's going to be the third string quarterback of Mississippi State, stuff like that we love. But we got to go where the story goes here at Peek Around the Corner. Some breaking news by Sports Business Journal. If you are new to the show, subscribe to our channel if you need just a little bit of extra content. Just a little bit of extra college football content to get you through the off season. Subscribe to our show. Smash that like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends, your priest, your psychiatrist, your dog and your cat, your significant other. Share the video. Wow. First of all, I want to apologize. We were going to break this. We were going to come on a little bit earlier. I'm having some technical difficulties here in the studios, and it's all my fault. I apologize. I hope everything looks good. I hope you can hear me talking. Give me a yes, give me a no. Hopefully we're okay. Came in the studio, try to get a show up and running, and I screwed up. Someone give me a yes if we're okay in the chat. Bruce Harris, thank you for your donation. Appreciate it. I love your, when you rip on me and my singing. People are getting very creative when they're ripping on me. There's not going to be any singing tonight. It's not going to happen. Yes, we're all good? Okay. Well, You know, everything is great with this show, but we have one weakness, and that's the host. We've been talking about that lately. Okay, let's get to it. We got a lot to cover. There's some cloak and dagger stuff going on. No question about it. I agree with Canzano. John Canzano just said on his tweet, a lot of stuff going on in the tweets. If something pops, put it into the comments section. We're going to go to the Twitter page and see what's going on. There's a lot of back and forth going on right now. A lot of drama, but Canzano says basically something like, there's nothing like negotiating in public. Things are a mess in the Pac-12. Last Friday night, we did a live show, and it was titled, on February 17th, it was titled, Now It's Time to Panic. February 5th, we were telling everybody, calm the bleep down. We're not saying that anymore. That's not true. Yes, thank you, Ryan. Lots of public negotiation going on. Wow, where do we begin? Well, first of all, we have to thank our sponsor. We're going to be here a while. We're going to do a monologue. We're going to get to your phone calls. I'm going to go through the Andrew Michon article that's just lit up the world tonight. But we are going to get to your comments and phone calls. This is a show that you guys are going to direct. I'm fascinated. I want to hear you guys tonight, you gals, and I want to see if your comments match what I am seeing out there in Twitter, especially in Pac-12 land. It has been swift. It has been ugly. But maybe some of you can teach us the values of Apple TV possibly carrying Pac-12 content. And I think it has a lot of underlying meanings. However, let's get to our fabulous sponsor for tonight's show. Welcome to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. We invite you to discover the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters difference. Clean, hot air roasted coffee produces a smoother, richer, healthier coffee that is less bitter and less acidic. Our hot air roasted coffee uses convection heat to loft the beans for a very even heat transfer. The clean, bright taste that people rave about is achieved by roasting the bean quickly and evenly while suspended on a bed of hot air. From craft to cup, hand-picked coffee beans, Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters, the smoothest coffee my wife and I have ever had the pleasure of drinking in the morning with our breakfast. From craft to cup, Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Give it a shot. Give it a try. Go to the link in the description box and below the video. And if you do choose to get this coffee, when you're ordering it, if you want to support this channel, put down PATC in the comments section. Thank you so much, the Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters, for once again sponsoring this emergency live show. We were going to go on tonight. Me and the wife, we had plans. And first of all, and I told her I was going to say this, thank you to Maria Hernandez Garcia Flugar, the moderator, the little general, for letting us do this once again tonight. She is so supportive of this channel. She understands the passion of college football fans, and it cannot be denied. So she's given the okay. The little general has given the orders. We are doing a live show tonight, and we're going to stay on as long as possible. Look, a lot of people are saying what Son of Sarek just says. Apple TV, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. If a football game is played on Apple TV and nobody's there to watch it, does the football game actually get played? Wow. That matches the heat that we're seeing in Twitter, message boards. Let's get to the story because, a lot of people, they're not aware of what just broke. Okay? So let's get to it here. Let's get to it. Apple emerges as potential landing spot for Pac-12 football by Andrew Marchand. Now, you know, for those, you guys know how much I defend Sports Business Journal. This came out in the New York Post, but you all know who Andrew Marchand is. Information at the highest level is leaked to him and John Aran, and if you don't believe that, I do not know what to say to you. You should take this breaking news as seriously as you possibly can. And is there cloak and dagger behind this? Yes, there is. And we'll get to it in a second. Apple TV Plus is emerging as a potential landing spot for the Pac-12 college football rights, the Post has learned. As a potential landing spot. On February 21st, Andrew Marchand decided to post this, to break this. And you remember he's been going through this now. They've been having a sports media podcast, John Aran and Andrew Marchand, and they've been talking about Amazon really only wants one game. And and ESPN, they just want a slice. They don't want too much of it. And they really are down on what's going on with the Pac-12 media negotiations. Let's back to the article. With ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and Fox Sports lukewarm on the league. Oh, gosh. Apple could end up being the platform for the Pac-12, according to sources. Is this the mystery partner that George Kliavkoff had in his back pocket? Earlier today, I put out a wild guess. I said I had no intel. Just putting out a wild guess. Maybe the mystery partner is Google-owned YouTube TV. Well, I was wrong, wasn't I? With my wild guess. Shortly thereafter, bam, we get this breaking news. With ESPN and Amazon Prime Video and Fox Sports lukewarm on the league, Apple could end up being the platform. Just those three words, being the platform for the Pac-12. Holy smokes. I'm trying to get to this article, but when you read it, it's devastating. 107-year conference. Incredible schools. Incredible history. Back to the article. Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff could present Apple as a possibility to his schools soon, according to sources. Soon. Amazon backing away? Are they done? More on that. There's so much to go through tonight. So buckle up. I'm saying buckle up. You got your beverage? We're going to get those cloak and dagger mugs ready for you as soon as possible. I can't even get through this article. The Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff could present Apple as a possibility to his schools soon, according to sources. If the universities will be interested in a potential all-streaming deal, and if the terms will end up being good enough to prevent schools departing to other conferences, are yet to be determined. I don't know. I mean, that might be the most positive part of the article. If the universities will be interested in a potential all-streaming deal, and if the terms will end up being good enough to prevent schools from departing to other conferences, are yet to be determined. A Pac-12 spokesman and an Apple spokeswoman both declined comment. Apple TV Plus began with live Friday night baseball games last season. It is about to start a 10-year, $2.5 billion agreement with MLS in which it will have the global rights to stream all the league's games with an all-inclusive package that is $99 for subscribers. An all-in deal similar to MLS would be more in line for the Pac-12 with Apple. An all-in deal similar to MLS would be more in line for the Pac-12 with Apple. That means Pac-12 is going to have to go all in on Apple if they do this deal. And if George Kliavkoff is ready to produce this soon to the university presidents, again, we have to ask ourselves in the PATC community, in the chat room, has Amazon backed away? And if they backed away, where are they going? The Big 12 recently skipped past the Pac-12 by signing extensions with ESPN and Fox. For ESPN, it added to its portfolio, which will include all of SEC beginning 2024. Last year, the Big Ten agreed to massive contracts with Fox, CBS, and NBC. The ACC is locked into a long-term contract with ESPN. That has left the final Power 5 conference, the Pac-12, without a TV partner. Its current deal with ESPN and Fox Sports runs through next season. The Big Ten was helped in negotiations after USC and UCLA jumped to the conference from the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is down to 10 teams and no longer has the Los Angeles TV market to sell. If Apple were to make an agreement, then it would presumably produce more than just football for the Pac-12. It is possible the production from the Pac-12 network could be used, so this could be more than just football. Apple can be very, whatever that word is, in contract negotiations. They can be pretty picky, which was one of the reasons a much talked about agreement with the NFL for Sunday Night Ticket never happened. For the Pac-12, reaching a deal may not be easy, but it is a possible alternative. And then finally, Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff could present Apple as a possibility to the school soon. Oh, we already got that. I'm sorry. Now, before we get to your comments, before we get to your phone calls, I want to get, there's been some incredible reactions. Let's just put up this for a second. This is James. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Crepe. Someone let me know how bad I got it. He's from the Oregonian. The Oregon Ducks beat writer. Imagine, this is 2 tweets he put out. Imagine a weekend slate of games. Wait, let's start with this one. Live sports rights have never been more valuable. College football may be its most popular of all time. The 12-team playoff starts in 2024. The Pac-12's best media option might not include linear television. Don't walk. Don't pack anything. Run. All gas. No brakes. Get out. Oregon Ducks beat writer. Then here, another tweet. Imagine a weekend slate of games in 2024 with the SEC dominating ESPN ABC, Big Ten dominating Fox with CBS midday, ACC and Big 12 getting rest of the desirable spots. Plus you have Big Ten, NBC at night. Then tell me how the Pac-12 is best served on a streaming-only platform because the games are at 12:30 and 4 p.m. Are you nuts? The reactions to this deal has been swift. and ugly for the conference. Maybe people in the chat can change my mind, but thus far it doesn't look like it. I want to throw out one more item. So we've been told by Arizona State Money Perch that the only way this really unravels won't be from the Four Corners schools. It's from Oregon and Washington. Oregon and Washington leaving. And of course, I think most of us believe that Oregon and Washington would only truly want to go to the Big Ten. Of course, that would be their number one target. And then we had Pete Thamel yesterday in an article. He used the words, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said it. He said it. It was clear. In fact, maybe I can go find it again. Let's see if I can find it. Well, maybe not. But he said basically the door is cracked open. It has been cracked open. The Big Ten expansion door has been cracked open. He said it. So our question last night was, who was the one who pushed the door open? Okay. So let's say let's just pretend, okay? Let's say Oregon and Washington are starting to talk with the Big Ten once again. Well, the problem with that is, there's lots of issues with it, but one problem is the Big Ten is ready right now. Right now they're ready. They're in meetings right now to finalize their scheduling of the 16-team conference with no divisions. It was going to be decided today, right? It was going to be decided today. They're in their meetings. They're going to go no divisions, and they're going to post what the three permanent rivals are for the 16 teams in the Big Ten. What happened? What happened today? Scott Dockerman. Big Ten athletic directors and league officials concluded their winning winter meetings Tuesday morning, and, quote, no action was taken on football schedules, unquote. There's a general consensus divisions will go away in 2024, but yet again, once again, but nothing is finalized. Holy smokes. I'm going to read it again. Big Ten athletic directors and league officials concluded their winter meetings Tuesday morning, and no action was taken on football schedules. There's a general consensus divisions will go away in 2024, but nothing is finalized. Once again, I don't know how many times this has happened. Once again, the decision was pushed off. Why? They've known the structure of this Big Ten. They've known it. 16 teams, no divisions. They've been rating, they've had each of their schools, 16-team Big Ten schools, give to the Big Ten administrators their request for their top 3 of 5 rivals that they would like to have on their permanent rival list. They've gone through this whole process. So why are they delaying it again? Could it be because they are back in the talks with Washington and Oregon? We have no intel on that. We are searching. What do you think? Okay, we're going to get to your comments right now. We're going to get to your phone calls. Apple TV, tell me what your impressions of it are. Could it work? All streaming platform. Oh man, I tell you, the front porch of those universities, the athletic departments, they're going to get buried. They're going to get buried. That's my opinion. Let me see what yours are. Welcome in everybody in the house that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kirk Gowdy Avenue. First of all, thank you, Bruce Harris, for your donation. I appreciate it. Appreciate your generosity. Ryan Thomas, Washington, Oregon will accept a 20% revenue share of the Big Ten and pay the other schools' travel costs. I mean, they'll come in even at less than 20% revenue share. They'll take the first offer. If there's an offer, they will take it. And again, Big Ten pushes off this decision they've been working on for months. They've already pushed it off 5-6 times. What's the reason to push it off again today? Is it because of this situation in the Pac-12? Okay, back all to your comments here. Bob Lewis is first. Let's go, Boomer. West Virginia guy. This could be the Pac-12's fairway football season 2023. Bob Lewis held to the victors. Tater tots. Streaming only? Wow. Is it all going to be on Apple TV? Think about George Kliavkoff presenting this to the presidents and to the athletic directors. Apple TV, they got all of MLS streaming. They're going to take all of the Pac-12. Is Amazon out? And is Amazon flirting with Washington and Oregon going to the Big Ten? Are those dots being connected? Are there even any dots out there to connect? Why did the Big Ten push off their decision? I don't know how many times. I think 5 or 6 times I think that's too low of a number. Monovision, no Big Ten expansion without Notre Dame. I don't know, Monovision. I don't know. I do not know. Laura Weiss, exposure. We've been talking about this for months. When everyone else was talking money, we were talking exposure. I don't even know what this means. I'm not smart enough. Come on, Greg. Nobody signs a media deal before the vernal equinox. Got no idea what that means. Is that December 21st? That very well could be. Ryan Thomas, 100% Apple TV is the Hindenburg deal. Wow. It looks like the comment section, it looks like the PATC community is in line with what's being said out there in Twitter and message boards. George Kliavkoff is seriously going to produce this to the Pac-12 presidents. If Andrew Marchand is saying that this is what's going to happen, yeah, here's a big one. This is true. Craig Kirsch, thank you for coming in. Thanks for this comment. Amazon has 180 million subscribers compared to 30 million. I think they got 34. But what's a few million between us? 30 million for Apple. It would be for the entire package. No way the PAC does this deal. You might be right. There's no way the PAC does this deal. But to even get to this point where the commissioner actually, this may be his best deal he can show the presidents. And if that's true, it's over. It's over. It's all over for the Pac-12. Last night, for the first time ever, in the PATC Sportsbook, it showed up there on the flashing lights, a pick'em. Now it's plus 125. Plus 125 that the Pac-12 can keep their 10 schools in the conference. 125. That means if you bet a $100 and the Pac-12 stays together, you would win 125. Pac-12 staying together right now tonight after this breaking news. Now it's the underdog. For the first time, we consider it the underdog. The favorite is now the Pac-12 implodes. That's how devastating. Okay, they might not even, no, you're right. They can't take this deal. They won't take this deal. But why is this deal even being presented to the Pac-12 university presidents? How can this even be an option at this time? Amazon they must have took 3 steps back. We know that ESPN doesn't want too much of this deal, right? They'll take a little bit, but they don't want the whole thing. They don't want the tier 1, and the Pac-12 schools don't want Amazon to have the tier 1. Bruce Harris, Apple, is flush with cash. Maybe the Pac-12 can get Apple TV to come over the top, right? To offer each university $40 million, $45. But man, they're going to get buried on exposure. Rick Forster, Amazon is not stupid. They know what the Pac-12 is doing and will not fall for it. Laura Weiss, I think this leak was an attempt to calm the waters, but it's backfired. Okay, so who gave this information to Andrew Michon? I actually think we don't have the phone lines open yet. I will open them up here shortly. I know people want to call. They got a lot of frustrations. I get it. Look, I actually think the opposite, Laura. I think someone leaked this to Andrew Michon to just completely overturn the apple cart, especially in Washington. I think this was an attempt to say, look, this is how bad it is. This is what we're actually going to attempt to do. I think it's the opposite. I think someone wasn't trying to calm the waters. I think they were trying to flip the boat and have it sink in the water with this leak. David Kreitzer, streaming deal would be like signing a death PATC. It's like signing a suicide pact. Jonathan Price, Oregon. Thanks for coming in the house, Jonathan. Oregon, Washington exposure goes down the drain. Today's 13-year-olds won't know why they are what they are in 5 years. Rick Olson says Google YouTube has 14 sports channels. Maybe that's an option. I threw that out there on Twitter. It was a wild guess. I have no intel on it. Just trying to think outside the box. And then, of course, right after I say that, bam! This news comes in. Apple TV. I think, Tony, the little general will have you outside shoveling soon. We're going to get a huge snowstorm here in Minnesota. No, I won't be shoveling. Yes, I'm too old. Yes, I'm too fat. I'm not going out there and shoveling. No way, no how. Again, the story is not just about Apple TV and the Pac-12. This is about Amazon. If we're this far down the road with Pac-12, about to present an Apple TV Plus offer to the university presidents, that means Amazon has taken a giant step back. What is Amazon planning? They want to get into the college football space. They attempted it with the Big Ten. They wheeled and dealed here with the Pac-12 for months. And if they've taken a step back, are they going back into the Big Ten fold? I asked you that question. Big Ten happens to once again delay their scheduling for 2024. Rick Forster says Amazon is out. Smarsh M, thanks for coming in. NBA rights are going to Apple, or either a piece or a lot of the games, can promise you that. If that's the case, then it's a little bit better deal for Pac-12. But again, we're not going to know exactly where the NBA goes until 2024. That's the problem with this. To go to the same streaming platform as the NBA, if NBA puts a lot of their content with a streaming platform, that might work out kind of somewhat for the Pac-12, but Pac-12 doesn't know where the NBA is going to end up. And ESPN's going to get some of that anyways. NBC's being real aggressive. Okay, let's get to your phone calls. I know people want to call in. I have to say, I was not expecting breaking news today that Apple TV now looks like that's going to be presented to the Pac-12 presidents. Amazing afternoon. Once again here, peek around the corner. The number is 763-260-1333.
Call from
Wild Ute.
Wild Ute. Ute. Sir, I don't know,
doing,
man.
Greg?
I am very anxious to hear what you have to say because I'm open. You know this, sir. I'm open to being told that this could work out, that this is the cutting edge. The Pac-12 could be in on the come. This could be the cutting edge. Let's go. Let's rock and roll. Let's get this done. Apple TV might overpay, right? So that's great for the Pac-12 universities. Let me know what you're thinking, sir. The floor is yours.
I think that old George K is pulling a cloak and dagger on you and everybody else right now.
Ooh.
I really do.
Yes.
I don't see and I know that your odds, you've changed the odds, and now the Pac-12 is in an underdog position to remain.
Yes.
I actually disagree with all of that, and here's like the thoughts on that. Actually, I was feeling that way up until this news.
Okay.
This news actually kind of brought something to me, at least. Okay, so I think this is a complete leverage play. 100% leverage play, and I think George K is pulling a rabbit out of the hat by bringing Apple into the fold right here. I mean, if you keep in mind, the narrative as of yesterday was there were only two bidders in play, right? Okay. Amazon and ESPN, nobody else. All of a sudden, there's a new one. And I'm thinking to myself here, okay, so if I'm ESPN in particular, okay, so say that I don't sign a deal at all with the Pac-12, it all goes to Apple. I'm stuck in a position for that late night time slot right now of either putting late night BYU games on occasionally or Mountain West games or whomever. In the Mountain West, they're not even going to have San Diego State anymore. It's going to be a watered-down Mountain West or just BYU unless the Big 12 expands with, say, like a Fresno State. So really, I think this is leverage all over ESPN to say you better pick up an after late-night package and sign that with us, or else we can sub-license games to ESPN through Apple. But I don't think this is just, we might be talking, maybe the whole deal goes through Apple, but I think there's going to be a lot of stuff on linear television through ESPN, because I think ESPN all of a sudden realizes, it's right in their face, hey, we might not get any Pac-12 games to put in this late-night spot. What are we going to do? Replay SEC games? ACC games? We've got nothing other than the occasional BYU game right now. But I think that actually puts a lot of leverage on them to make a move to up the bidding price. And everyone's talking here that's probably going to be in the low 30s, 20s and stuff. I think this actually makes the payout a lot more than people anticipate. Honestly, probably in the mid-30s and stuff, bringing Apple into the fray, maybe Amazon still in the fray, just driving the price up. And I think especially ESPN is going to be a player in this, because I think they have to. They don't have any choices if they're going to have late-night football.
True. Now, very good. I like your thinking here. So you're saying that this was leaked to Andrew Michon from George Kliavkoff, indirectly from George Kliavkoff, to help the leverage with their negotiations with Apple TV, but especially with ESPN, right? I got that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
It might not have been from George, but maybe one of the interns in George's.
Yeah, someone indirectly,
right.
For George's cause here. Yep, I got that. Very interesting.
And why not do it? Why not do it? You've got nothing to lose right now.
All that is plausible. Couple things right off the bat is it doesn't. I can see them trying to build up leverage. But, and you are in the minority here, which is fine. There's been a backlash to this. So I'm wondering how much leverage. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my perception is wrong. Twitter isn't the world. Twitter is just, right, the most passionate people. The message boards are just the most passionate people. But the backlash...
There's not a lot of business sense on Twitter.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of business. If you're thinking from business sense, think these are companies trying to generate more profits.
But what I'm saying is when you got beat writers saying and he's not the only one. He's the only one that brought up the Oregon. Other ones, they're being really harsh about this. Inside Pac-12 country. So if that was the goal to get leverage on ESPN and Amazon, I think maybe it's not going to work just because of this. There's been quite a bit of a big blowback here in the first couple hours since this news broke. That is just my perception. Number two is, now if it was leaked from George Kliavkoff to Andrew Marchand, part of that leakage, that information is they expect for this to be presented to the Pac-12 universities, presidents, real soon, right? That was part of the information that was leaked. So I'm hoping that if this was leaked from George Kliavkoff somewhere in his office, that the Pac-12 presidents are in on this as well, on this plan to leak. Because
I think so.
You think they are? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this is square on ESPN.
Okay.
I mean, this is ESPN. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What games are you going to play? This has been a profitable venture for you. You get over 1 million viewers per game. You're going to stick BYU on a couple nights a week? Are you going to stick, Boise State and Nevada on? Or are you going to replay SEC games? They're not going to do any of those. They have leverage here.
Or does ESPN go back to Gene Smith, who's ever the commissioner, who's whoever the person is at Big Ten who's answering the phones right now, and say, is there any opportunity for us to get to that fourth window spot if you guys increased in the Pacific Coast? And
That's a cloak and dagger bomb right there.
Well, no,
everything explodes.
I love this phone call because, again, right? You're thinking a little differently, outside the box. This is plausible. This could have been a genius Kliavkoff leaking to Marchand. What I find to produce leverage against ESPN mostly, what I also find interesting in the story is Andrew Marchand has been very down on these current Pac-12 negotiations, right? I mean, really, really down on it. He's been shaking his head saying, Amazon, they're just interested in one game and ESPN doesn't really need it. And so people have been leaking him information about what's been going on in the negotiations. So this is either the same person or persons leaking this negative stuff to Andrew Marchand, which is my theory, to try to sink this boat faster, to say this is what's really going on, put it out there. Or, in your theory, and I'm assuming people people agree with you. It's a very interesting and plausible theory. But in your theory is somebody new has come to the party of leaking stuff to Andrew Michon, and they're saying, okay, Andrew, this is what's going to happen with the goal of putting pressure on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
So
exactly.
Cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger, cloak and dagger. Wow.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, sir. Beautiful call. Outstanding. Once again, Wild Utes.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, good evening, Greg. How are you?
Good evening. I can't wait to hear what you say as well. Holy
I
cow.
have a few thoughts, but I'll start off with this. I don't think it was leaked by the PAC-12 or by George Kliavkoff, because what I've thought, I've always felt when I've heard this cryptic discussion about there's another bidder, that it was Apple. And Apple is your sort of your backup or your very last resort, because they probably will spend a decent amount of money, but you're trading a tremendous amount of exposure. You don't want to get there if you can first make a suitable deal with the people at the table already. But I don't see this causing leverage, because I don't know if ESPN needs that fourth window that much. Plus, they do have BYU for the one Big 12 game, and I'm not certain that the Big 12 would do this. But if it came right down to it and the Pac-12 ended up on Apple, the Big 12 could always acquire a couple teams out west, perhaps coming in at smaller buy-ins to take care of ESPN's problem as a backup plan if it gets there. But I look at this, and I feel that, first of all, I still think I've gotten tired as a Big 12 fan. Of course, I'm also an ACC fan. I watch this from all angles. There's been discussion about ACC Pac-12, which I don't see happening. It does not make sense for Duke, my alma mater, to be sending our teams all the way out to the West Coast to play games. That's just ridiculous. So I don't think that's happening anytime soon. It would be a tremendous and the ACC's had its own issues. But when I look at this situation from the Pac-12 perspective, I see it as, I still think they're going to stay together. And I've grown tired as a Big 12 fan of even waiting. It seems like the schools in that league want to stay together. Nobody is willing to say enough's enough and leave and bring an end to this. None of the other schools, they're all waiting on Washington and Oregon, and that's fine. And from the Big 12 perspective, I've looked at this situation. At most, if we get the best schools out of the Pac-12, it might move the deal from $31.5 to $35 million. And that's nice, but it's not game-changing. So if no one comes from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, that's fine. And I think they're going to potentially stay together and just get the best deal they can and survive it until Oregon and Washington can buy time. But if so, and they do this deal with Apple, they will be like a street of, holiday lights on a street. Think about a street at the holidays. And the Pac-12 will have decided, the SEC and the Big Ten are in the mansions with the big lights professionally done. The Big 12 and the ACC have lights they did themselves, but they're at least visible. And then you have the Pac-12 with a safe full of cash, because maybe they get $40 million from Apple. They have more money than the ACC and the Big 12. They have a safe full of cash, but the lights are off. Nobody can see them because they'll be on Apple and nobody's going to watch. So that's the first thought. The second thought is if I'm an athletic director, I don't want to play a game at a Pac-12 school, because if you have to pay $100 to subscribe to Apple to buy a season of Pac-12 sports just to watch one game, that's not ideal. So I'm thinking some athletic directors might think twice about playing high-profile games at Pac-12 schools if Pac-12 goes with a streaming deal like this. Amazon's less of an issue because more people have. I think 200 million people have Amazon, and about 40 million people have Apple. And so I think that's another issue at play. And finally, I saw from a Pac-12 school's media person wondering about removing Kliavkoff. And I almost feel, and I hate to say this, that if you remove Kliavkoff now, it's almost like firing the captain of the Titanic after the iceberg has already hit. It's just too late. You can't remove the guy.
Yeah.
He's in there. I still think they're going to come together. It may not be a great deal, but they'll make the best of it. They might get the money. If it doesn't happen, and I'll say this, I think if Oregon and Washington are talking to the Big 12, I still look at it as a leverage play because I don't think they want to join the Big 12. I think they are using it for leverage to get the best deal they can vis-a-vis the rest of the schools. I still think it's a balancing act. I would like this to be over, though. Yeah. And today's article from Andrew Marchand has not moved us any closer to bringing this to an end. And I think it'll just continue to go on all the way to the basketball season. Yeah. And that's it, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you. Great phone call once again. Lewis? Outstanding phone call. Lewis does bring up a good point. I mean, ESPN, how much leverage do you really create with ESPN if they can just expand with the Pac-12 with some West Coast schools like Fresno State?
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling. What do you got to say?
How is the man in black doing today?
The man in black suffered a very bad performance last night singing that song. But I've recovered, and I was not expecting that we'd be sitting here tonight discussing George Kliavkoff. Looks like he's going to present an Apple TV streaming deal to the Pac-12 university presidents. Didn't think this was going to happen.
Yeah, so I want to point out a couple things. First of all, I've said this before to people many times, but when you look at this, advertisers will always pay based on eyeballs. And if your average is 1.2 million eyeballs per Pac-12 After Dark game, the advertisers are only going to pay you so much for that. And any additional amount you pay to the conference for that spot eats into your profit margin. And looking at the numbers, if you can get a greater profit margin with a Mountain West or a WAC or an AAC, heck, maybe the AEC would be willing to play those late night games in those spots, even if they're in the central time zone. You've already seen it right now with the consideration of basketball being played at midnight, and other situations. But my point is this isn't ESPN doesn't care because ultimately they'll get something to fill that time slot. But they're not going to take anything that eats into that profit margin if they can find a greater return elsewhere, and they will. They'll either get it by having the Big 12 play those games or the AAC play those games. I think the Mountain West is contracted with Fox, but their deal's coming up. But they'll fill that space somehow, some way, and get the profit margin they want. Second of all, if they're trying to strong-arm Amazon by saying we're going to go with Apple, Amazon is just going to sit there and laugh at them and say we have 150 million more subscribers. Make my day. Yeah. I mean, it's just it's just not. I mean, it's not a position of power. It's not a position of leverage. And if they are trying to do that, and if that's what they think is leverage, then boy, they've got the wrong people running that conference. And maybe we should actually consider that. This might be a hint that we shouldn't be mixing academics and sports. Maybe we should keep our academic and research ties apart and our associations outside of athletic conferences because, these kind of decisions, if you're basing it based on that, that's pretty stupid. Ultimately, I think, like I said, I think right now there's a reason why that story's out there, whether it was leaked as positive news. I wouldn't be surprised if the PAC leaked it thinking they would have some sort of leverage move because every leverage move that George Kliavkoff has tried has backfired spectacularly. Or, it could have been that because everybody has sources and contacts in the industry, it could have been, one of those cheap shots like Canzano and the Pac-12 tried to throw out with the Fresno. It could have been, Amazon actually having the source leaking that just to kind of expect this negative backlash and make the PAC look even weaker. But ultimately, I mean, it's in pure desperation mode. I mean, I hate to tell it to the Pac-12 fans, the Big 12 is never, ever, 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 ever adding Fresno State. They will not do it. They will not do it. They're not doing it. They don't, if it means not getting that fourth time zone, so be it. They're not going to add them. The only West Coast team that they're going to pull outside of the Pac-12 or Power 5 is San Diego State. That's the only one they're going to consider. So, I just laugh at these amateur tactics by Clownzano, as I like to call him. And, and Wilner, I mean, bless his heart, he wants to save a syndicated column. But I mean, it comes to a point that you gotta be realistic. And your boy Genetics, attacked me today on Twitter, which is awesome because if I got under his skin, I know today was a good day. But anyway, I think that this thing is just a catastrophe, and there's no more money out there. There isn't any money more out there. So it's either take the 25 or 30 million or whatever you're offered and move on, or just accept the fact that if you go 100% on Apple, the deal will fail in the first year. I promise you that. And the reason why I say that is nobody's going to get any attention. Schools are not going to schedule the Pac-12 for non-conference games. And you'll get schools asking Pac-12 schools for 2-for-1s. I mean, it's a disaster. So the Pac-12, what do? Let's move to 10 games. Well, guess what? The Pac-12 will all of a sudden end up looking like the WAC of the 1980s. I mean, this is just a disaster, and implosion's on its way. And the only answer is just, my message is take your $25, $30 million, see if you can get it a 3-4 year extension, try to get as short as possible, even if you have to take $20 million, take a 2-year extension and try to reset. But right now, it is just the Hindenburg. It is crashing and burning. And oh, the humanity, Greg. Yeah. Oh, the humanity.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. And
thanks.
Good night and have a great show.
Thanks. Great call. Kenner Bowman, as a Colorado fan, all I can do is laugh. This is worse than the Pac-12 network. I wonder how much say Coach Prime has in this. He wants all eyes on his team. Apple TV is hard to find. People are making great points. People are not going to be scheduling Pac-12 football, having their team go to their stadiums where the Pac-12 will own the rights for those games and have to have their consumer, their fan bases, have to sign up for Apple TV. This is a very bad situation because I'm taking it as this is a serious situation. Serious that Kliavkoff is going to present this deal to the Pac-12 presidents.
Call from
Rebecca. Go Huskies.
Rebecca's in the house. The floor is yours.
Well, good afternoon, Greg. How are you today?
Good afternoon. Doing fine. We're getting hit. We're going to get hit by a major storm here in Minnesota. So, me and the wife, we're going to be basically in the house for the next couple of days. We won't be able to get out. So we might be doing live shows all day tomorrow, all day Thursday.
Sounds like a great way to spend a snowy day.
Yeah.
I mean, you could bundle up and watch Apple TV.
Yeah.
I mean, has nobody watched Ted Lasso? Like, God, get Apple TV, people. Like, it's actually pretty good.
Yes. I heard it's good. I've never watched it.
It's really good. And I'm like, if you have an iPhone, you basically have access to Apple TV.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, like, is Apple TV ideal? No. Do they have MLS? Yeah, they do. They have MLS.
Yeah.
They also show baseball, which, I mean, I know people are like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to watch it. It's not hard to find. It really isn't difficult.
Yeah.
I also want to point out, people like, I've been looking at comments, people like, Like, what does Coach Prime feel about this? How's he sell it to recruits? Anybody want to, like, Greg, do you want to guess which age group streams more than others?
The young crowd. That's why.
Gen Z.
What? Yeah, that's why
Gen Z
MLS.
does.
That's yep.
So it's not hard to sell it to these kids.
Yeah.
They're already streaming. Like, I mean, we need to give these kids credit where credit's due. They're the future. They're, in 10 years. That's why everybody keeps saying in 10 years, these kids are going to be in their 30s. The ideal age group for TV is that 25 to 45 group.
Yep.
And that's right where they'll be, right in that 25 to 45 age group. It sucks for those of us who are older. I mean, I'm a millennial, but I'm an older millennial, but not ideal. But what else? We're sniffing breadcrumbs here, but I do like the out of the box thinking though, right? Like that's where we're at. You had to go out of the box. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to it. He had to go out of the box, and this would also explain a little bit why it's been delayed, because Apple probably stepped into the foray here in December, January. So, and December didn't, and Apple. I want everybody to know, Apple is doing their best. They're going to get there. Greg, do you know what board Apple sits on? What media partner? So, I'll give everybody a history lesson. Lucasfilm founded Pixar. So I don't think a lot of people realize Lucasfilm was actually the creators of Pixar. But this little company owned by Steve Jobs called Apple, Steve Jobs actually owned the majority of the stakehold in Pixar and still does. But Apple basically owns Pixar.
Yeah.
Apple sits on the Disney board.
They are flush with cash, no doubt about it. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, Apple, ESPN, this all makes sense. It's just kind of some things are just kind of making sense here. Now, I don't want anybody to panic. There's a lot of Arizona fans out there who are kind of panicking today, and they're like, "Oh, go to the Big 12," and it's I don't know if it's an actual option, especially if I'll say it out loud. If everybody jumps ship from the Pac-12, let's say this deal dies, everybody jumps ship, the Big 12's not taking Arizona unless they go to 18. But I don't see their comments. I believe I read comments that they want to stay around 14, 16 because it keeps them right on pace with, say, ACC, the Big Ten, and the SEC, because they're all right in that, they're at the 14 to 16 range themselves. Also, I think if you go to 18, they probably have to play 10 conference games, which I don't know if there's a single, 10 conference games. I don't know if there's a single league that wants to be the first to try it. I mean, Big Ten might. Apparently, it's in the contract of the Minnesota Gophers head coach, right?
Yes. Yep.
But I just it sucks that it's Apple TV, but I mean, Apple TV it's getting bigger, and like I said, kids nowadays watch Apple TV. It is a very constant thing. I think Ted Lasso is a great show, and most teenagers actually watch it, which is even more incredible. But I'm not happy. I mean, as a Husky fan, I'm not happy.
Yeah,
but
I understand what you're saying. Yep.
The options are limited. Oregon and Washington aren't going to go to the Big 12. And as long as they stay, the conference stays. Anybody can be delusional. We can all basically do the whole we're negotiating for our school, but in reality, Washington and Oregon have flexed. They're not moving. They're good. And unless something changes, which anything could. I mean, Apple could suddenly decide no and pull out of the deal, or ESPN could decide no and pull out of the deal, or Amazon. And at this point, George Kliavkoff is doing exactly what he's been hired to do, which is to maximize the media contract and get the most money he can and get the best exposure that he can. This is the best exposure, even if it's 25 million homes, and I don't even, the Pac-12 network only reached 12 million. so it's doubled.
Yeah, but it's not the same though, because the Pac-12 network wasn't putting on the top tier content that Pac-12 provides. Apple TV gets in the game. It's going to want to have the top tier games, and those top tier games is what elevates the whole value of your media package and the whole value of your conference. It's really, and Apple TV might get there someday, but Pac-12 doesn't have until someday. They need it now.
And and for the Pac-12, the top tier content essentially ends up being 4 schools, 5. With the issue is like it depends on where people value Utah. Utah can be like right there, but I believe most people have valued the top 4 as Washington, Oregon, Stanford, Arizona State, and then you can throw in like Colorado and Utah right underneath, right in like really close to Arizona State's value, and then like a Cal. And again, Cal is really valuable because it sits in Oakland. Essentially, it's in Berkeley, which is just outside Oakland. But yeah, I mean, those are the games that Apple would definitely want. And weirdly, I don't know what kind of numbers Apple. I don't even know if you can look up the numbers that like a Ted Lasso gets unless Apple is actually out there reporting it, right? Like, I think for me, it's just too many question marks. I'm not ready to say yes or no to the streaming thing, but I will say this isn't it's not a terrible thing for the conference. We have something, and then of course the comments today that the Washington State University school president gave, who, he was the former president at Kansas State, so he's like really in tune with the Big 12 fans. Like he's on the message boards apparently. Yeah, so I was like, that's wild to hear. Yeah. But everything like just seems like the schools are doing the smart thing at this point. They're waiting it out. They're playing it safe. Nobody's going to jump. I think. I really want to commend the school presidents for doing the smart thing and going, let's see what we get first before we jump ship. And they're staying together. And obviously that the president's apparently that statement was done in less than an hour, which is wild. If anybody's ever dealt with like academia and like school and like presidents of the schools and chancellors, like that stuff doesn't usually get done in an hour. Usually done like over days. I guess, Greg, I'm very indifferent, and
okay.
I know
all right,
the world, but go Huskies! This is not the end of the world. We'll figure things will get figured out, and you know what? No Big Ten expansion until Notre Dame decides that they have to be in a conference. Or until the Big Ten goes, you know what? Screw this. We're going to grab Washington and Stanford now, and then we'll decide on others later.
All right.
We're praying, Greg. We're praying here in Seattle for a Big Ten.
Yeah. Thanks for the phone call.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. A lot of
call from
Day Old Donuts.
Day Old Donuts is in the house. The floor is yours, sir.
Oh, well, I could dance or I could sing like you. Well, I don't want to do that. Never mind. Anyway, real quick, I was looking at some numbers. It says overall worldwide, not ESPN, Apple TV is at 25 million viewers.
Okay, I saw 34, Amazon, but okay.
Yeah, well, I was looking. Amazon is well over 200 million. Yeah. That's a big difference. And that's if Amazon wasn't willing to give too much on that, and it's not looking like I guess it was, obviously Apple wouldn't have been coming in here. I don't see Apple offering all that much. I'm not trying to put any glass half empty, on the Pac-12 people, but this isn't good.
Yeah. I agree.
This
this
isn't good, and I don't know what they're going to do in terms of deal. My opinion is, if you get rid of Kliavkoff now, bring in someone, a rock star that can come in and get it done, do something, someone that has some contacts right now. I think that's their best bet, in my opinion. But again, is it too late? I don't know, but they have to get a deal done. But this isn't the answer, and it's not going to pay much. I think they're going to, try and sink all their money into this. They could come out losing. And remember, too, they have a bill they got to pay for Comcast still. It was, $50 million, something like that. They also have to figure out how they're going to distribute everything. Is this going to be an uneven revenue share where the Oregon, Washington schools get top tier? I mean, how do you do that when you got, schools like Utah winning the thing?
Yes.
It's really an unfair situation. So anyway, I hope you stay warm enough. We're expecting a big snowstorm here, so
it's going to be bad. Thanks for the phone call.
Yep.
Yes, I did see this. Ryan says Swarbrick will be having a talk on realignment Thursday. Probably nothing. I think it's not a realignment. It's just one of those parts of his. I think it's going to be a Q&A. I got to read it again. He had one of these about 6 months ago. But realignment, talking about conference realignment, is one of those points in the Q&A that he's going to be fielding questions talking about. It's probably going to be nothing. But watch Swarbrick, man. I tell you, watch what he says, because they haven't checked the box on everything that Notre Dame needs going 2025 and beyond. They haven't. We have Peek Around the Corner. I don't think there's anybody as aggressive as we are in discussing Notre Dame. The future is changing on them.
Call from
Moen.
Moen Vision, Mr. Buckeye. He's in the house. Can I ask you a question?
Go for it, Greg.
Now, I know I'm crazy, right? But
you're crazy, Greg.
Okay. So now that we have that established, I'm posting Scott Dockerman's tweet today. This came out a little bit after, a little bit before. I don't even know anymore. After Andrew Michon's announcement that George Kliavkoff was probably going to present a Apple TV streaming package to Pac-12 president, Scott Dockerman says in a tweet, Big Ten athletic directors and league officials concluded the winter meetings Tuesday morning, and no action was taken once again on football schedules. There's a general consensus divisions will go away in 2024, but nothing is finalized. What do you think of that? Is that a dot? Is that a dot that we can connect with Amazon possibly taking a step back, with Washington, Oregon? What, Big Ten? What do you think?
I wouldn't read too much into that, Greg. I think that there's still some heated discussions on permanent rivals. It might have been a thing where they're just kicking the can down the road. I've heard some people are not pleased with some of their rivalries, obviously. So,
okay, all right.
I wouldn't put too much into that, but if anybody would know, it would be Gene Smith.
Yep. Okay.
I'm sure he's got his phone set to vibrate.
Yeah.
He's probably sick of the calls at this point, but bad news for the Pac. I don't see any positive in it. You know, it's like that old quote, this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't be,
This is essentially like hospice care for the Pac. They might get $30 million a school for the next 5 years, but the lack of exposure on Apple is going to absolutely destroy them.
Yeah.
And I understand Rebecca's point that recruits no streaming, but recruits don't pay the bills.
Yeah.
It's old folks like us that pay the bills, and we don't watch our sports on streaming apps. We watch it on TV. We flip from game to game.
Yeah.
We're not going to switch over to an app to catch a Pac-12 football game. It's just
no.
I'm sorry, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
This is part of the reason why Ohio State canceled their games with Washington. They don't want their brands locked behind a paywall like that.
Yeah. I think it's. I think we've come to the point where, if this is really serious that George Kliavkoff's going to present this, then I think ESPN is incredibly lukewarm on Pac-12, and Amazon has taken a step away. And I think that's absolutely, for me, it was going to be really tough for Oregon and Washington to sign this deal. And now, if this is it, if this is what they're getting, it's impossible to sign it. Because we talk about Apple TV possibly streaming, possibly being the stuff that people do years down the line. The Pac-12 needs exposure now, because it's not like Monovision, and I know you know this, but it's not like the last 5 years Pac-12 eyeballs on their content has been increasing. It's been declining. It's going the other way. They don't have a buffer. They don't have a margin of error anymore. The value of the conference took a hit even before UCLA and USC left. That's one of the reasons why they left. And now Apple TV. Devastating.
Yeah, it's and the other point I would make up is the NIL deals. I mean, who's going to want to pay huge money for a recruit that is going to be paywalled every week on Apple?
Yeah.
It's going to be hard for a local business to come in there and say, and I think in local terms because of the Big Ten, for a local business to come in and say, yeah, we'll pay this quarterback recruit $1 million a year to endorse us, but meanwhile his games are paywalled on Apple, and ESPN's probably going to bury him in highlights. It's bad news all around. I won't take up too much time, Greg.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people want to call in, but you mentioned that streaming was a cutting edge. I'll just end my call with saying the guillotine was a cutting edge as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Great call. Lost Highway, good question. How is it bad news all around? We have no clue what the dollar amount is. Well, here at Peek Around the Corner, we really haven't focused on the dollar amount. For months, it's been the exposure. We don't, couple of $1 million more per school per year for Pac-12 schools over the Big 12 schools. Okay, fine. Couple $1 million a year less for each school than the Big 12. Okay, fine. But that's not, it's the exposure part. That's why Brett Yormark jumped in front of the Pac-12. He attempted to do so, and he achieved it because he wanted the last good spots on Fox Sports and ESPN. So really it's not, they might be getting $35 million a school per year under Apple TV, or maybe $25 million. You know, Apple TV at this point, coming in this late in the game, they're not going to be putting a whole lot of money because they know the other media partners are not, potential media partners are not putting a whole bunch of money into the pot to get Pac-12, because if they would have done so, they would have already gotten the deal done. So it's not like Apple TV is coming in on a white horse and bringing in their vault of cash and saying, we're going to overpay you, please come in to us. They may overpay a little bit, no question about it. But again, from peek around the corner standpoint, we've never cared about the money. Everyone's obsessed about the money on Twitter. I get it. On message boards, I get it. Money, of course, is important, the most important thing. But in this situation when the media market has tightened, ESPN is being more selective, Fox Sports is out, CBS is out, it looks like NBC is out, Peacock is out with NBC. ESPN is just interested in some content, not too much. Amazon only wants one game per week, the tier 1. Pac-12 doesn't want to give that to them. It's the exposure angle to all this. That's what we focus on here at Peek Around the Corner. And sure enough, look what's happening. Here at Peek Around the Corner, when Brett Yormark cut the deal to get ahead of the line of Pac-12, we said congratulations, Brett Yormark. We thought that was a huge move. And every Pac-12 writer said Brett Yormark made a mistake. And we said, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. Because now Pac-12 is going to have an exposure issue. And here we are months later, and we're talking Apple TV. And look, there are people out there that think this is going to work out, even in the exposure part of this, that people are going to be going to Apple TV or whatever streaming service. But you've seen the reports from The Athletic, from Andrew Marchand, from CBS Sports, from Brett McMurphy. They're all saying the same thing. There is a unease for the Pac-12 athletic directors, presidents, to put most of their comments behind a streaming service platform. It's coming from them. I think this is devastating. That's why the odds are plus 125 now that the Pac-12 gets poached. And I can't believe I'm saying it. Because even during all of this time, a lot of people, you guys have been listening to me, you're sick and tired of me saying, even amongst all these problems the Pac-12 is having, I've been saying every single night, but yet the Pac-12 is going to stay together. But if this is it, if this is what the Pac-12 is getting for the next 5 years, 6 years, whatever, I don't see Washington and Oregon signing this. They're not signing this. Larry Pilgrim, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate you, kind sir. Thank you for your generosity to this channel, helping us keep the lights on. All I hear is no one watches the Pac-12 except Pac-12 fans. Now people want to critique who is paying them to air their games. And is there piecemeal games with networks? So Larry Pilgrim, no, it's not. It's not no one watches Pac-12 except Pac-12 fans. It's Pac-12 country doesn't watch Pac-12 games. That's what I have said here at Peek Around the Corner. Actual eyeballs in Pac-12 country do not watch Pac-12 content like they do in the Mid-East, in the Mid-South, the Southwest, the Mid-South, Texas, and Oklahoma, and in the Southeast. That's why the ratings, when they come out every year, they're highly predictable. Pac is last. Okay, now what are they going to do? They're going to go with Apple TV, a streaming service. Most of the country is not going to flip on the Pac-12 game. The passionate fans in the Midwest, the passionate fans in the East who love college football in the South, I've watched Pac-12 after dark games. We all have. It's Pac-12 country that hasn't been watching Pac-12 games. And now we got Apple TV. That's a potential platform for Pac-12 football when they need an uptick in eyeballs starting right now. They don't need any more decline of their eyeballs on their product. That's why they're in the spot that they are. That's why USC and UCLA left. That's why USC called the Big Ten. Thanks for the donation, Larry. I appreciate you coming in to the chat. Black Rain, people keep saying young people streaming are not watching sports. They watch Netflix and other TV shows. The Pac-10 doesn't have a nationwide audience. Only at night, LA schools are gone. Troy W., if Oregon and Washington won't sign, what's the point? It's over. I don't know. I don't know how they sign that. Don't know how they do it. I'm going to go back to, well, I don't have it listed anymore, but the Oregon beat writer for the Oregon Ducks, what he said today. He said, get out, Oregon, get out. Get out of the conference. All gas, no brakes, get out. If this is what's going to happen. Again, the number is 763-260-1333. That's our number here at Peek Around the Corner. Robert Perez, everybody wants the Pac to fail. Before they didn't have any bidders outside of Amazon, ESPN. Now they have Apple. People are saying something different. Let the conference show what they can do. Thanks for coming in, Robert. Okay. Apple TV is now the bidder. Maybe Wild Utah's correct. Maybe Robert's correct. Maybe this is good news. Maybe this was leaked by Kliakoff. Another bidder to put leverage on ESPN, to put leverage on Amazon, to step up if they really want Pac-12 content. I don't want the Pac-12 to fail. Pac-12, been around for 107 years. Don't want them to fail. I didn't want the Big 12 to fail either. Over the years that I used to criticize the Big 12, I criticized Texas for that LHN, for the Longhorn Network that put an albatross around the conference where they couldn't bundle up all their live content together. They could not get in a conference network because of that. I ripped on the Big 12 all the time. For those who have listened to me on Flag Empire for years, I called them the Horse and Buggy Conference. I'm not saying that anymore. Things have changed. I didn't want the Big 12 to fail. They were failing on their own. But this is not good. This is not good in my opinion. I know a lot of people, some people disagree with me, but you should see it's been a swift and ugly reaction from the vast majority of people inside the Pac-12 themselves. But we'll see. Rebecca says, all anyone is saying is the conference is dead and that Kliakoff isn't doing his job. The moment he does what he must, he failed. He literally is doing his job. There's some truth to that, Kliakoff, trying to get more bidders, trying to get more deals to present to the Pac-12 presidents. I will say this, though. I will criticize Kliakoff when it comes to what he did with that whole UCLA situation, the comments he made, the time they wasted. They wasted so much time. They should have been negotiating. And with UCLA not being an option, Kliakoff probably, we don't know what the numbers were, but he probably should have taken the first deal that was offered when they were in the exclusive window with Fox and ESPN. I think there's a lot to criticize Kliakoff for. And Apple TV, I think, is the end result of all those mistakes. And I think Washington, John Wilner put out an article today. I put it on my Twitter. I put one phrase. He was getting, in his article, it said that the presidents are talking with that was the Washington State. I'm sorry. That was the Washington State president that was saying that, the presidents are talking not in groups of just 10, but in individual groups. They're calling each other, seeing how they feel. I bet they are. I bet they're all looking to make sure that no one's jumping before they jump. That's the feeling I got when I read that. I'm being blunt here tonight. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Wild Ute is correct. Maybe someone leaked this information to Andrew Michon to spike up, to get the leverage against ESPN and Amazon, to hopefully generate more interest from ESPN and Amazon and say, oh my goodness, there's a third party ready to come in and take this content from us, and it's Apple TV. I disagree, but we'll see. I really think it's someone, people have been leaking to Andrew Michon, and it's all been negative thus far, and I think this is their way of saying, look at this, Andrew. Look at this. This is where we're at. I could be wrong. Jason W., thank you for your donation. Are we witnessing a real-life game of musical chairs? Well, if we are, it's already the end of there's no chair left, and the Pac-12 is standing there. So if it's a game of musical chairs, it's over. The game's already over. The music is no longer playing. Tony says Swarbrick needs some money. Again, we'll be covering that here at Peek Around the Corner. That Thursday meeting that Swarbrick is having. I believe it's with, I better not say anything. I got to reread that. I don't know, about 6 months ago, he had a meeting in front of the parents of the current student athletes of Notre Dame. And there's a question and answer period where he answered some questions on conference realignment. So we'll be covering that on Thursday. With an episode, we'll be going live. Or both. Per Pac-12 presidents, the Pac-12 Conference Board of Directors' goal is to have a media agreement in place by around mid-March. Hidden Hawaii, the alliance was stupid. Howie's overtalked. Lying constantly, playing games with propaganda reporters. Meanwhile, you got a new commission, the Big 12. Yarmark getting stuff done in less than 6 months. Stoop Stifed, the Pac-12 has been weighted and measured and has been found lacking. Gary Sanini, GK, George Kliakoff overpromises and underdelivers. It sounds like he did overpromise to the Pac-12 presidents. That was leaked to The Athletic. Not every single one of these reports are incorrect. They're not all wrong. There's a lot of displeasure inside the Pac-12. January 31st at Peek Around the Corner, I got some new information on that. On January 31st, Arizona State Money Perch told us that Arizona State showed their displeasure in the Pac-12 meeting. Then other people reported that after we reported it. We put out an Arizona State Money Perch letter. We read it. A lot of that stuff, some of it has been reported by others after we put out that letter. It sounds like we're going to be getting an Arizona State Money Perch letter number 2. It's already been written. It's already been delivered. I haven't seen it. So we're not going to be doing that tonight. This is all about Andrew Michon's breaking news about Apple TV Plus potentially being the platform for Pac-12 football and other sports. For those new to the show, we're College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Smash that like button. Share the video with your family and friends. Let's just go through. I know we have a lot later arrival. Let's just go through the article real quick. This broke today. Apple emerges as potential landing spot for Pac-12 football. Apple TV Plus is emerging as a potential landing spot for Pac-12 college football rights. The Post has learned. While ESPN, Amazon Prime Video, and Fox Sports are lukewarm on the deal, Apple could end up being the platform for the Pac-12, according to sources, plural, being the platform. In other words, being the mothership of Pac-12 content. The Pac-12 Commissioner, George Kliavkoff, could present Apple as a possibility to his schools soon, according to sources. If the universities will be interested in a potential all-streaming deal, and if the terms will end up being good enough to prevent schools departing to other conferences, are yet to be determined. Wow. A Pac-12 spokesman and Apple spokeswoman both declined comment. And then it talks about Apple TV, 10-year, $2.5 billion agreement with MLS. An all-in deal similar to MLS would be more in line for the Pac-12 with Apple. And then it talks about how we got here. If Apple were to make an agreement, then it would presumably produce more than just football for the Pac-12. It would be more than football. It is possible the production from the Pac-12 network could be used for Apple TV. For the Pac-12, reaching a deal may not be easy, but it is a possible alternative. And then today, from Scott Dockerman at The Athletic, announced that Big Ten athletic directors and league officials concluded their winning meetings Tuesday morning, and no action was taken on football schedules for 2024 and beyond. There's a general consensus divisions will go away in 2024, but nothing is finalized. This is the 5th or 6th time the Big Ten has kicked this can down the road. Does it mean something? Does it have any connection to what's going on in the Pac-12? They do not want to decide on each school's permanent rivals. Could it be possibly because, well, someone in the Big Ten offices has picked up the phone and there was Oregon and Washington talking to them once again? I don't know. We have no intel on it. I just thought it was very curious, that's all. The Big Ten, everyone thought that we're finally going to get a decision on the football schedules. Monovision called early in the show Mr. Buckeye and said, well, he believes that maybe we just can't come to an agreement. That maybe there's still some pushing and pulling, trying to figure out who's Ohio State's 3 permanent rivals going to be, who's Penn State's 3 permanent rivals going to be, who's Wisconsin's 3 permanent rivals going to be. Or maybe they don't even know how many teams are going to be in the conference in 2024. Maybe they know something. Maybe they know there's a phone call. Maybe they were told, the athletic directors were told to stand down on any decision today. Give it another month. Give it another 2 months. Give it another 3 months. Okay, back to your comments, to your phone calls. 763-260-1330. 1-33763-260. 1-333. Larry Pilgrim, if streaming is going to be a huge source, there will have to be accessibility before the schools sign on. Gary Stutler, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. I'm sorry, Gavin Stutler. We don't want Pac-12 12 teams in the Big 12. They act like they're better even though their streets are filled with crime, drugs, homeless people. Nobody likes their permanent rivals, Mona Vision. Well, I think for some of the conference it would be easy to figure out who the Big Ten was going to have for their permanent rivals. Minnesota, I think it's easy. Iowa, I think it's easy. Wisconsin, I think it's easy. Penn State, more difficult. More difficult. Joe Denker, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate your generosity. Thanks for coming in. College football's peek around the corner. I appreciate it. You help me keep the lights on. Thanks for coming in, Joe. Thanks for that donation. Generosity of the PATC community is unmatched. We are an independent YouTube channel. Some of you don't believe it. There's wild conspiracies about us. But no, we're not affiliated with anybody. We do not have YouTube memberships. We don't have Patreon. Any information we have, we just put it out. And we can have a show at any moment. We could be on live 3 hours from now once again. So you got to subscribe to our channel. You'll get notified. You'll get an alert at least. We don't know when we're coming on. We go where the story is and how whatever flows. And we have our intel. And if you don't know about us, check us at Flug Empire, a ticker down at below the bottom of the screen. You can read about a pinned tweet. Los Angeles Times did an article. You never know what the next intel is going to drop. We're going to be probably, I should not overpromise. Like Kevin Warren and George Kliakoff. But it looks like we're going to have Arizona State money perch letter number 2 to show you all. And the first letter, it was interesting when it came out, and I think it showed a certain perception of Arizona State, and I think he nailed it. Thank you so much for the donation, Joe. Son of Sarek, Penn State, Ohio State should happen every Halloween, period. That shouldn't even be debated. Market text, give Ohio State, Michigan, Illinois, and UCLA. Mike K brings up a good point. If Rutgers or Maryland are not your permanent rival, you will play them every other year anyways. That's correct. As long as it's a 16-team conference, right? And as long as we stick with 9 conference games, yep, you play everybody once every 2 years and 3 teams once every year. I would love if the Gophers' permanent rivals was Wisconsin, Iowa, and Michigan. But it's probably going to be Wisconsin, Iowa, and Nebraska. But we'll see. And then, I brought it up at Peek Around the Corner. I thought there was a chance of this great compromise where not every school would have 3 permanent rivals. Let Penn State only have 1 permanent rival. Let some schools have 3, let some schools have 2, but it sounds like that's been pushed away. Everyone's going to have 3 permanent rivals, that's it. It makes the scheduling a lot easier. So it looks like that's where we're going. John Femlor, you don't see the SEC rushing to make Alabama and Georgia permanent rivals. We haven't seen the SEC make decisions either. They haven't had official rivals. They haven't listed them. They haven't even made the decision if they're going to go to 9 conference games. They're holding back. Delay, delay, delay everywhere. Good comment by Chris. Why would anyone sign a deal with the Big 12 with a 99-year Gore or $100 million payout? If I was the Four Corner schools, I would hang in the Pac-12 for a few years and see if they can get an offer from the SEC. Don't think they're going to get an offer from the SEC. But that 99-year thing, that is part of the Big 12 bylaws. And I agree. I mean, that would have to be... They should get rid of that. Really. Basically, what that 99-year bylaw / Gore is a 2-year penalty. If you're going to leave the conference, you owe 2 years. 2 years of whatever media money you would get. And of course, that's going to get negotiated down to 60%. No, for example, let's say Oregon called Brett Yormark and said, we want in. But you've got to get rid of that 99-year clause. What would Brett Yormark do? Would it be worth it? It'd be easier for Oregon to leave the conference years down the road, but it'd be sure a lot easier to get them in the conference. But take out Oregon, take out Washington, put the Four Corner schools in there. Would Brett Yormark, would he get rid of that 99-year clause, or would he keep it in there? Great comment, Chris. It'd be difficult for those Four Corner schools to go in there and sign that deal with that 99-year clause, but we shall see. Rick Olsen, the biggest rivals in the pack are Oregon versus Washington. True hatred. Tony, if this SEC goes 3-6-6, Auburn gets Bama, Georgia, and someone else. Ouch. Tony, I did see your comment earlier about quarterback Morgan, Tanner Morgan, Minnesota Golden Gophers. He gets drafted by the USFL. Michigan Panthers, look out. Look out. I will have to say this to the Michigan Panthers of the USFL. If Tanner Morgan's your quarterback, he's a great leader, great guy. Just make sure you put on max protection. He has difficulty avoiding a one-man rush. Put max protection, give him some time. He can do some damage. But yeah, that's exciting. Golden Gopher quarterback drafted in the USFL. Look out, baby. Look out. Okay. Troy W. If Washington and Oregon won't sign and Apple knows they are in a position of strength, I can't imagine Apple is going to overpay for a glorified Mountain West Conference. Well, if Oregon and Washington don't sign, Apple's going to pull away their deal. I just... Am I overreacting? Am I being too negative? Am I overreacting? I'm going to ask this in the chat. I want you to put a why or no, but let me ask the question first. Am I overreacting to say that Oregon and Washington will not sign this deal if Apple TV is the main platform for Pac-12 content going through the years? Am I overreacting? Yes or no? So far, we got no, not overreacting. Monovision thinks they will sign the deal. LFG says PAC only needs 8 of 10 yes votes by current presidents to approve a deal. Holy smokes. Sargon says I'm not overreacting. Yes, Apple Washington connection is legit real. Larry says Oregon has sabotaged every deal put in front of them. Civil War Ghost says no. Troy W says no. Rick Olson, I hate the thought Oregon might have to team up with the Dirty Dogs to help each other. I got to think you guys are working with each other, trying to find a way to get into the Big Ten. Rebecca says it's a 3-4 vote, 75%, so 8 votes. They would need 8 votes. It may only take 8 or 10, but those two can just leave. Wow. NRGTXN says, no, I'm not overreacting. Stetler says the Pac-12 does not fit in with the Big 12. Their members will vote to cancel the season next time. Craig Kirsch says the Big 12 would give Oregon an out, as that would bring in Arizona schools. I'm going to check Twitter right now. I'm going to check the reactions. Let's see what's going on here. I know it was quite negative before we came on. Just let me give a quick look. See if there's something I can post. There is an update to the story. Emily Adams, South Carolina, Greenville's News, USA Today Sports writer. This is what she says. The Pac-12 has somehow found a worse idea than the Pac-12 network. Yeah, the reaction has been harsh, very harsh, very, very harsh. It hasn't stopped. Again, we'll get back to your comments. Phone number is 763-260-1333. PATC phone number. Questions that need answering. Will Notre Dame or Stanford pay their players? If it gets to a pay-to-play, direct pay-to-play, where the student athletes become employees of the schools or a third party that represents the schools, good question. Very good question. I think Notre Dame will. I don't know about Stanford. We've been covering the Johnson versus the NCAA. We did an episode on that last week. If you want to go through our YouTube channel and find that out. Very interesting development. Government is a is getting into this where there could be an agent of change and what goes on in college football in the years ahead. And everybody's making decisions with that in mind. Rebecca says, has anyone thought it was leaked so the presidents could actually hear how bad the Apple idea is? Possibly. Laura, some of the smartest people I know have no common sense. LHN to be absorbed into the SEC network. What becomes of the Pac-12 network? If the Pac-12 can hold, if they can survive the Pac-12 network, the cameras and all that stuff will be the production arm of whoever puts their content on their streaming platform. Apple TV would use the Pac-12 network. But yes, LHN is finally going to die. It did not work. It's best to bundle third-tier content together. You get more juice out of it. You get more value out of it. Just like when you bundle tier 1 content together. You get more value from the media company. Dale Donuts, Greg, are we going to see a scenario where football is broken away from conferences and conferences only exist for basketball and lower? If it happens, it's not going to happen for quite a few years from now, Dale Donuts. But I am not canceling out any possibility years down the road. There's always changes. Realignment never sleeps. There could be a whole different structure 15 years from now. 2026, we're going to see some change. Some changes are going on. And I am seeing people talking about it now. Pete Thamel talked about it, I believe, and Paul Feinbaum. Other people are talking about it. 2026, what we call the Great Gold Rush, where that we don't know what the new playoff format is going to look like in 2026. We don't know who's even going to be in the room to vote for a new playoff format. The playoff format of 12 teams, 6 top conference champions get an automatic berth, 4 top conference champions get a first-round bye, 6 at-large bids, 12 teams total. That's for 2024. That's for 2025. We do not know what 2026 is going to look like. And the stories on that, the battles that are going to be waged on that are going to be dropping soon here in late 2023, 2024. What's going on here, Pac-12, Big 12, possible Big 10 getting back into it, that all has to do, a lot of it has to do with positioning yourself as best you can to make sure you're in the room when the votes are cast for how football is going to look like 2026 and beyond. It is tough when negotiations are out in public. Troy W. makes a good point. It amazes me that this is all being negotiated in public like this. Kleekoff is left looking like an amateur and he can't respond to anything because he still has to formally present it to his stakeholders. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Just another reason why I think this leak was inside the Pac-12 to torpedo it, to drive this thing into the waters, to have it sink. No. No. Thanks for posting that, Dave Bauer. Appreciate you coming in. to PATC. Thank you so very much, Dave. No. See, this is what I get up. Dave, thanks for posting that, but also, why did you have to post that? Okay, now you got me revved up. Okay, I'm about to go on a rant here. Dave just poked the bear. He just poked the bear. That can't be correct. Dave, are you correct? Is this correct here? Dave. John Wilner, 1. John Wilner, 1. Apple has always been a potential Pac-12 partner. Apple might not end up being a Pac-12 partner. Now carry on. No, see, that's not the story. That's not the story. I tell you, I don't understand it. I don't get it. No wonder why he ignored my messages to him when I told him that USC was in negotiations with the Big Ten. That's not the story. The story is, let me find what the story is. See, now I'm all revved up again. Okay, it's going to take me a second here, guys. Hold on. Let's get the right screen up here. Dave's got me all juiced. Apple TV Plus is emerging as a potential landing spot. Emerging as a potential landing spot. Not that they're just in discussions. Not that they're just, they're always going to be. Maybe they're not going to be. They're emerging as a potential landing spot. They're up in there with Amazon and ESPN. They're emerging. And then George Kliavkoff could present Apple as a possibility to his schools soon. They haven't seen an offer from Apple TV yet. But now they are. Why is that? And then Marchand throws in if the universities will be interested in a potential all-streaming deal and if the terms will end up being good enough to prevent schools departing to other conferences are yet to be determined. He brings up, is it going to be good enough to keep schools from departing to other conferences? It's not just about Pac-12's always been a potential landing spot. They're emerging. And it's going to be soon where George Kliavkoff presents it to the universities. Yeah, a potential landing spot. But of course something has changed. Emerging could present soon. They didn't present something 3 months ago and everyone kind of... Why is George Kliavkoff... Thank you. Webb, thank you for the donation. Another 50% article now from Marchand. Now Marchand's the 50% art. In other words, what he's saying is Andrew Marchand's article has no value to it. None whatsoever. As the rest of the country, most of the people who follow college sports are just saying this would be terrible. I don't think people understand the word emerging. Now Marchand is, Pete Thamel yesterday, Marchand today. All these are the 50%ers. The 50%ers that don't get the right information, that are disinformation. It's unbelievable. Wild Ute. Greg, you have Greg, you have a long-standing agreement that you'll sing fight song when an underdog wins versus a top 10 team. Now we're going to have it if you're an underdog and if you win. I'm calling that shot. You sing Remember the Name as George K. signs a deal worth $32 million plus. Thanks for the comment. But again, the dollar signs don't matter to me. It really doesn't. It's the exposure part of this deal. It's the exposure part. Grateful Trojan, the PAC mouthpieces love to poo-poo everything. They have been exposed throughout this whole process. Yeah, I don't know. Hit in Hawaii, Wilner will be gaslighting. The dude has no right to talk. Clown show, man. I swear this is why I'm done with this conference leadership. Rebecca, Craig needs a beer. Cloak and dagger. Absolutely. Absolutely. Rebecca brings up an accurate point. Everyone not named the SEC and the Big Ten is like $40 million behind. But are you going to be $35 million behind having your games being played on ESPN and Fox Sports, ESPN Plus, whatever, some decent spots? Or are you going to be $35, $40 million behind playing on Apple TV Plus? That's the question. The question is not how far behind are you with SEC and the Big Ten when you are the president of Arizona State, of Arizona, of Colorado, of Utah, of Oregon, of Washington. The question is how far are you going to fall off the face of the earth versus ACC, which has to deal with ESPN to 2036, and the Big 12, which is the only Power 5 conference that has to deal with ESPN and Fox Sports. We always talk about change is coming, streaming is coming, and everything else. But as of today, and at least for the next 3, 4, 5 years, Fox Sports and ESPN are still going to own the college football space. If you're going to go to streaming, you might as well go to Amazon. Get on to Amazon. If you're going to do a total streaming deal or 80% streaming deal, go to Amazon. But of course, Andrew Michon says Amazon doesn't want it. They only want the top game. They only want one game a week. And then everybody dumped on Andrew Michon, and it turns out he was correct. If Apple TV is the only streaming platform that will take the tonnage of Pac-12 content, then we got problems. And John Wilner's comment, I don't know. Tony Altmore has been silent. Again, I like Tony. We disagree. We agree on Pac-12 universities. They want to be together. Great universities. Research. They are the economic engine of not just the Pacific Coast, but large parts of this country. Thank goodness for those universities. University of Washington, my goodness. All of them. California, Stanford, obviously. Very important. And that's why they want to stay together. Where we disagree with is, I see the world is changing rapidly in college sports. Rapidly. That's why we put together this YouTube channel. That's why we're peek around the corner, not peek to the past. And because there's so many dramatic changes going on, it has changed the dynamics of what used to hold the ties that bind. Those are starting to break somewhat, not totally, but somewhat. So, I don't know. I when this news broke, I said to the little general, I said, we got to go live. We got to have an emergency live show. We weren't going to do it. But we had to do it. Because this, and I took time before I came on here. I took time to see the reaction out there, and it was as negative as my reaction was. Now, maybe we're all wrong. Maybe this works out. Or maybe the Pac-12 says thanks or no thanks to Apple TV. But we're at February 21st. Apple TV presented something to Kliavkoff, and Kliavkoff is going to present it soon. That must mean what? That Kliavkoff has nothing better to offer, or Kliavkoff thinks this might be the best offer? Holy smokes! Okay, so I think we're going to close it up tonight. We've been on the air for over 2 hours. We weren't even going to do a show tonight, but we had to when this broke. Andrew Michon, Sports Business Journal, broke it in the New York Post. George Kliavkoff, about soon, he will present an offer from Apple TV to the Pac-12 university presidents. We've seen negative reaction. We've seen some positive reaction here in this chat room, thinking that this might be leaked to help Pac-12 Commissioner George Kliavkoff leverage against Amazon and ESPN. Interesting concept. I believe here at Peek Around the Corner that once again someone leaked something negative to Andrew Michon trying to torpedo this deal. But we shall see. So, I'm living in Minnesota. We're going to get our butts kicked right now by a winter storm. Minnesota is one of those, well, it is the place in this country that has the ability to get out of storms, but this one's going to be bad. So I'm going to be trapped in this studio for a couple days. So we're going to be doing more live shows. So if you're new to this channel, subscribe to our channel. You'll get notified because we're going to hop on at a moment's notice. Breaking news, we're going to follow this story. We're going to follow the ACC unequal revenue sharing plan, which it's going to be a disaster. Yes. Lots of turmoil, lots of drama, lots of cloak and dagger behind the scenes. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.